Hi guys, my name is Tom Antos, and in this video I'm going to review the Sony a6300 camera. Now this review is aimed more at the amateur, so if you're considering this for professional video photo work, I'm going to do another follow-up video that I'm going to kind of get into more advanced features and kind of show you examples of just what kind of professional work you can achieve with this camera. This review, the reason why I'm doing it kind of more just for the amateur casual user is because I myself am on vacation, in the middle of doing a filmmaking workshop tour that's going all over US, Canada and Europe. If you want more information about the workshops, just go to todayscineschool.com. Anyway, so like I said, I'm on a vacation, and because of that, I don't have any opportunities right now to film any kind of cinematic, real professional kind of examples with this camera. And also I didn't bring any really filmmaking equipment with me. Really all I have is this camera and a cheap kit lens, which is a 18 to 55 millimeter Sony kit lens. It's at f3.5. It's not the fastest, not the sharpest lens. So the examples I'm going to show you guys are just casual videos and photos that I took while I'm relaxing here at the beach. All of the shots you're watching right now are shot in 1080 at 120 frames per second slow motion, and they're shot in Cinegamma 1. They're not shot in SLock or any of those advanced kind of camera profiles. Again, the reason why I'm showing you these examples is because this video is aimed more at the casual user, so somebody who most likely doesn't even know what SLock is or how to use it. Now if you're somebody who maybe owns the Sony a6000 camera, or maybe you're considering getting that camera and you're not sure what's the big difference between that and this a6300, then really I gotta tell you guys that the way it looks and feels in your hand is identical, and it really just, there's a few kind of more professional features that this camera has that makes it a better video shooter. So the biggest difference is the fact that now you can shoot 4K video. Also you can shoot slow motion up to 120 frames per second. Another really cool feature that this camera has, which the a6000 didn't, is the fact that you can record in SLock 2 and SLock 3. And the last sort of big difference is the fact that now you have a dedicated microphone input jack. Now if you're somebody who maybe owns the Sony a7S2 or a7R2 for example cameras, or if you're kind of considering maybe getting those cameras or this one, then the big difference, aside from the major price difference, which this camera retails just under $1,000, is the fact that those, the A7 series cameras are full frame. This one is a super 35 millimeter image sensor, which is kind of a standard for motion picture anyway. So I always tell people that full frame is not really something that you need if you're just considering getting a camera for video. And then other than that, the really big difference is the fact that for example, Sony a7S2 has built-in image stabilization, which this one doesn't. Also, this one, like I said, has the microphone input jack, but does not have a headphone jack, so you can monitor the audio, which the Sony a7S2, for example, has. So if those things are important to you, then you might want to consider spending a lot more money on the Sony a7S2. When it comes to video quality, these cameras are all very, very similar. Really the only big difference is maybe the fact that the Sony a7S2, for example, can go a lot higher in ISO and just it has a slightly better low light performance. But that's not to say that this camera is not good in low light. It is still an amazing camera in low light. It can shoot up to ISO 25,000, and really you're not seeing any horrible noise or anything like that. Also, to be honest, when it comes to whether it's home videos or professional work, I never really shot anywhere higher than like 16,000 ISO, which even that is very rare. Really, if you're the kind of a shooter, especially a professional shooter that requires ISOs higher than ISO, like I said, 16,000, then you're most likely not lighting your shots properly. So what are some of the really cool features about this camera? The first one I'll tell you guys that really amazed me is the AF, autofocus system. It's really been upgraded in this version of the camera, and all the shots here that I'm showing you guys on the beach have actually been shot on purpose with AF on. And you'll see that the camera just automatically, like it looks like it recognizes faces very well, or just people in general on the shots, knows what to focus on, and it just kind of keeps the focus there, and also it doesn't do a lot of kind of shifting or ghosting, kind of looking for different focus areas. So like I said, I was kind of testing it out on purpose, as if I was just like as amateur and you know, I had the exposure settings, the aperture and the shutter, obviously in manual, but when it comes to AF, I left it on, and I sort of let the camera decide what to focus on, and almost like 99% of the shots were perfectly in focus on exactly what I wanted. So it's almost, you know, obviously the camera can't read my mind, but like I said, if I just did a well-composed shot, the camera would recognize, especially if there was a person in the shot, and just kind of lock on the person. Same thing if I was, for example, had birds in the shot, things like that. So it's really great in that sense. So again, if you're considering getting this for your home video kind of camera, it's amazing because you can just leave it in AF and just kind of walk around with it, and you'll know that your shots are always going to be in focus. So really amazing feature, and I would say the AF in this one is even better than the Sony A7S II, which has already had, you know, a really amazing autofocus system. Another really cool feature this camera has is it has SLock now. It has SLock 2, SLock 3, has a Cinegammas 2, and you know, allows you to capture because of that wider dynamic range. Not that you should always try to capture wider dynamic range. I'm actually going to be doing a video sort of talking about shooting in log in general, whether it's S-Log, V-Log, C-Log, that kind of stuff, and when and how you should use it. And definitely you want to be careful of using or overusing S-Log in cameras such as these or Sony A7S II. Basically cameras that shoot 8 bits, so lower bit rates. It's just not, those cameras, you don't always want to shoot you know, really wide dynamic range. But anyways, I'm going to do a separate video on that. But if you want that feature, like I said, it's now available in this, and that's like a big sort of a pro feature. Not only that, but the S-Log is now limited to only ISO 800. So before, some of the other cameras you have to go as high as like ISO 3200. So it means you can shoot outside here in broad daylight, and you know, you don't really need to put a whole lot of NDs in front of your lens. Another cool feature, if you are planning to test out S-Log, is the fact that now you can have an S-Log to Rec 709 LUT applied, so the image has the right contrast and sort of color saturation when you're looking at it, you know, on the back of the camera, which just makes it easier definitely for focusing, and also when you're trying to figure out what it is exactly that you're recording. Another question that a lot of you ask me online is about the overheating issue. Well, I'll tell you, there is no overheating issue. I had the camera out, you know, in sunny Miami Beach here for a whole day. Sometimes I would leave it just running out in the middle of the sun for like 10-15 minutes. It got really hot to the touch, but never overheated or shut down. So definitely there's no overheating issues to be worrying about. Another really cool thing about this this camera is the EVF. It's even higher resolution than the A6000, which is already great. So an amazing, you know, you can see all the details there. And another thing is you can enable it, that and the LCD to refresh at 120 frames per second, which means you're seeing everything real time. You know, there's no lag, no delay. And you know, if you were using this for example, taking you know, photos, like let's say wildlife or sports photography, where you want to have constantly, like I said, updating, and you want to see exactly what it is that you're framing at. If you're shooting at the maximum frame rate, which is 11 photos per second, then you're going to have that slight delay because you're watching the last image that you just took. But if you slow it down to 8 frames per second, then you're actually seeing it real time, which is amazing. And 8 frames per second, you know, at full resolution photos, is still amazing for sports or wildlife photography, for example, because it really allows you to follow the action. So, you know, let's say you're following a bird or things like that, you can make sure that you're always getting, you know, perfect focus and framing and things like that. Now, I've actually gotten a lot of really weird comments when I posted a photo of this camera lying on the sand on the beach here. The reason is some people are calling me unprofessional, things like that. But I'll tell you this, if you're actually a professional and you're shooting jobs all over the world, and I've shot in the, you know, humid jungle, I've shot in the desert where sand is blowing in your face. As you can see up here, I dropped the camera, and even after I drop it, it still works. And that's what a good camera should do. Now, this camera actually has an amazing weather sealed body, so whether I dropped it in the sand or when I was filming over the water and I had waves splashing into it, nothing ever happened to it. So again, if you're considering of getting this for your home video camera or for photo camera, you don't have to worry about where you take it with you. But definitely, if you're considering using this for professional work, again, it's amazing because it's going to survive pretty much most of the elements. So what are some of the bad things about the camera? Really, there aren't many, but one of the big ones is maybe the battery life is still not really great. Hasn't improved over the A6000, and definitely if you're shooting in 4K video, then you'll notice, and then the battery life is really bad. It's about an hour, or maximum 1 hour per battery. So if you plan to shoot a lot of 4K video with this, make sure you get extra batteries. Another thing, and again that's a problem in 4K, is the rolling shutter. It's pretty bad, as you can see these examples here. Really, I mean, I would say if you're planning to do a lot of handheld work and shooting in 4K with this, you want to be super careful, because it's very quickly you're going to see the jello kind of effect. Now if you're shooting in 1080, there's a drastic difference. In 1080p, really I would say the rolling shutter is almost non-existent there, so that's a good thing. And I would say overall, when it comes to just the video functionality of this camera, if you're planning on using it mainly as a video camera, when it comes to a 1080, it's an amazing camera. Like I said, shoots in slow motion up to 120 frames per second, and it shoots amazing quality video. Now at 120 frames per second, you are going to see some water, but it's, like I said, like in very rare cases when you have some really fine kind of detailed and patterns. Still, the video looks pretty nice. I would say it looks on par with sort of the slow motion video that you're going to get from the really higher end, kind of more expensive cameras like the Sony EF-S or even the slow motion in the Sony EF-S7. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you are shooting slow motion in 120 frames per second is that this camera does crop in on the sensor a little bit. I would say another 15–20%. Not a big difference, but like I said, just something to keep in mind. So you might want to get like some wider lenses if you want to get those kind of wide shots. If you are shooting the slow motion at 60 frames per second, then I gotta say the video looks beautiful. It's super crisp and sharp, so there's really no difference between that and just the regular 1080p video. Now when it comes to 4K in this video, it looks phenomenal, amazing, lots of detail, sharpness, and like I said, really there's nothing bad to say about the 4K video, except that the rolling shutter is something that you want to definitely be aware of. So if you're planning to use 4K in this camera for a lot of action, handheld kind of work, might not be the best. But if you're doing those kind of more sort of locked off, kind of like I said, static kind of shots, a lot of interviews, things like that, where you just want to get a lot of the detail, then 4K, like I said, looks beautiful. And all of these shots you're watching right now are actually shot at 4K. So as you can see, whether it's during the day on the beach, getting all of the nice crisp detail. The AF also works great in 4K. And even at night, the 4K footage looks really good, especially when you're shooting in those real low light situations. You're going to notice that 4K is going to help you sort of minimize that grain, simply because the noise or the grain is a lot smaller. So overall, I think it's a really impressive camera. So if you're an amateur, you're considering getting this for your home video or photos, definitely to go with it. And even if you're a filmmaker, and especially a filmmaker on a budget, or somebody who's maybe wants to experiment with filmmaking, you're not sure this is something for you, and you don't want to go and spend a lot of money, then again, it's a camera that's amazing because it's very affordable and it offers some really advanced features, which I'm going to get into, like I said, in my follow-up video, where I actually have a chance to test that out on a proper film production environment. Anyways, if you guys want more information about accessories, cool lenses you can get for this, or you can get this camera, make sure you check out my website at tomantosfilms.com or follow the links in the description of this video. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.